Reds. My name is Mo Stewart. This man and that mountain of coffee next to me is Rob Gutmann.
So it's a large tea, Mo.
It's a tea?
It's a large tea. It's in a coffee mug, but it's a large tea.
I'll be damned.
I know I'm not a coffee guy. It makes me a bit edgy. That's for another day.
A bit more edgy.
A bit more edgy, yeah, a bit more wired. You don't want to see that.
Well, maybe something. No, that's another show. We're in the midweek stage of the season now, where there's games every midweek. So today there is a game, there is no difference. It's MK Dons are playing away in the League Cup, and there has been quite a bit of preview stuff about it. But we've got, well, I say we, some of us have certain shadowy sources who seem to have some extra information. Would you like to share this extra information, Roberto?
Do you know what? It might be public, I don't know. It just popped up on a WhatsApp group I'm on. I'm probably not meant to reveal it, but yeah, the Liverpool squad for tonight, as we understand, is as follows. It's, how many lads is it? It's quite a few. Lovren, Milner, Keita, Gomez, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Lallana, Lonergan, Brewster, Lewis, Jones, Herver, Kane, that's Herbie Kane, Kelleher, Elliott, Chirivella, Vandenberg, Longstaff and Clarkson. That's Jeremy Clarkson. Probably not, actually.
It's probably not Jeremy Clarkson.
Well, interesting, if that's the right squad, I have no reason to believe it isn't. The interesting thing is there's no break glasses in that, is there? There's no Mo. Mo's on a beach for one night only, probably. Well, Sadio, we know, was being given the day or two off because of his injury. But no Bobby Firmino, no Virgil. All the main lads aren't there. And the lads that are there are those that need minutes.
Very much so, they need minutes. And I was kind of the opinion that there would be some insurance policies simply because the fact that the under-21s are playing the EFL Trophy against Fleetwood on the same night. So I thought that some of those guys would be needed for that. But the fact that we've gone in this direction is really interesting. Now, we seem to think that Adam Lewis isn't going to play. He has picked up another knock. So it looks like Milner's going to be left back. What does that mean for the rest of the midfield, do we think?
It leaves them in very little choice. I mean, Keita, who will go on to talk about Pepijn Lijnders, I know, but Pepijn Lijnders has all but guaranteed Keita will start. So no secrets there. Keita and Alex and Lallana, I think are shoo-ins for a three, if we're just going to call it a three in midfield. The question then is, does Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, who will almost definitely play, does he play in that three or the front three? I think it's a choice between him and Curtis Jones. Both of them can play in midfield threes and front threes. Yeah,
I think personally I'd prefer to see Jones in the midfield threes simply because I think it's always been a bit more comfortable. And I said a couple of shows ago that he's actually been performing really well for the under-23s this season.
Very good, yeah.
So hopefully he gets the chance to do that in his favoured position. But
so we'd then see the Oxlade off the right, wouldn't we? But having said that, the other I think most interesting selection outside of Henry and Brewster is the potential start for Harvey Elliott. I think Pep Lijnders hinted at it a touch, far from guaranteeing it, but actually looking at the options, if that is the correct squad, there's very little choice but to pick Harvey Elliott. And Harvey tends to play off the right. So Oxlade-Chamberlain might have to move to...
Well, maybe we'll see a new formation because obviously the 4-3-3 has normally been predicated on having our usual front three or a version thereof.
Yeah.
Seems none of them are there. This would seem like almost a bit of a blank canvas for Klopp.
If you went to a 4-2-3-1, would you? I mean, Lallana. The interesting thing is, so many little quirks to this. Lallana was played pre-season as the 6.
He was.
Klopp said we'd play him 6 in a game where we expected to thoroughly dominate the opposition. I could see him playing as a 6 in a midfield 3. Would he play as a pair though in a 4-2-3-1? Slightly less likely. I don't know. What do you think?
Oh, I don't.
Does that work the same way?
I think it can work the same way. Again, it really does depend upon what kind of problems we're going to get from MK Dons, whether they're going to try to do anything long ball, whether they're going to try and cut out the midfield, they're trying to get it around the side of us.
Yeah.
I think some of that may be dependent upon how they set up. So it'll almost be a case of we start in one way and then we can kind of adapt it throughout the game to...
There's a 4-4-2 diamond option as well, isn't there?
We've seen a lot of diamonds over the course of time, so... And that's another option I really think that we could end up seeing. But it's exciting again, isn't it?
Yeah,
And I mean, I think
it
that's one of the things that we were desperate for from this game in particular, is it did seem a little bit like a poor relation in comparison to the games we've played so far this season. So having this little bit of intrigue, this little bit of a shake-up probably helps. And another area there was a shake-up was the press conference itself. Jurgen Klopp, as you may know, he was busy elsewhere, picking up an award for being the best coach in the world, but I think we already knew. But Pep Lijnders himself led the press conference, and it was a really illuminating press conference. I felt like he probably gave away a little bit more than Klopp would, but it was really interesting to hear him talk about the team and see some of where he fits into the whole grand scheme of things.
Yes, it was fascinating. We said off air, if ever something felt like a bit of an audition for more, that was it. I don't think Pep was overly, self-aggrandising.
No.
But he was very confident, he was very intelligent and articulate. I think, maybe he's one for the future if Jurgen goes on one of his sabbaticals or goes to find himself up the mountains and leaves us in a couple of years' time. Pep looks the part. He did actually have a managerial stint in Holland, didn't he? Which didn't work out, not at a particularly high level, so maybe not a fair place to judge him on. But he is authoritative. Klopp clearly rates him hugely, and I love hearing him talk.
I do as well, and I mean, it's a shame that almost a lot of this has been seen through the prism of will he be the next one? Because I mean, I know we was talking about it in previous shows, but I really think we should just concentrate on enjoying the guy we've got now rather than thinking about when he's going to go. But
since you've started this, by
yes,
the way.
I know. I'm just, we're allowed to change your mind when new information comes in. Anyway, parking that part of it for a little bit, I just think the idea of having someone like him and his influence growing within it shows that Klopp himself is not an autocrat. He really does lean on his team, and he really does allow them to influence his thinking and his way of working. Yeah.
I mean, an egotistical manager wouldn't let Pep step forward. It's not the biggest. I know Klopp was probably flying back at that particular moment. But no, I think it obviously, Pep, he would have definitely run it by Klopp what he wanted to talk about. He wouldn't have just let him run his mouth off. I think Pep is clearly so respectful of Klopp that he would have said, look, boss, I'm really honoured to be able to do this. These are the sort of things I'd like to touch on. Is that okay? And Klopp's going, you go for it. I'm sure he said, you say exactly what you want to say.
And one thing he did say, which you mentioned before, is that he pretty much admitted that Naby Keita is going to play, and you could tell if you read between the lines, or maybe you just read the lines of what he said about Naby Keita, that he's still really confident that he's going to become a big part of this team over the coming year.
Yeah, I mean, I really rate Naby Keita, and I scouted him thoroughly at Leipzig for a whole season. Wait,
you scouted him?
Yeah, I know. No, you know what I mean. When we'd already bought him.
Yeah.
I think lots of us started watching Leipzig all season long, so I watched a hell of a lot. I was very excited about him arriving. And we've been really unlucky. Naby's been really unlucky with all these injuries. But it was apparent to me with the money we paid, the way Klopp and everyone spoke about Keita when he arrived, and the glimpses we've seen, that they see that player as Liverpool, as the lad in our midfield options who has the highest ceiling. And you don't often hear it said in public, but I think Pep sort of gave us a little peek behind the curtain as just how highly they rate him. He was hugely effusive in his language. He goes, Keita, what a boy. He goes, he gives us unique things in the midfield. He gives us an unpredictability. He's virtually saying he can change the course of our midfield. You don't have to read much between the lines to say that a fully fit and firing Keita is a first pick in this Liverpool side. And
the interesting thing is that where there may be some people within the fan base who may be starting to lose a bit of faith with him with the continuing injuries, that is definitely not the case within the club. So we'll have to watch this space. Now, obviously, I mentioned before, we're going to have a little bit of a snippet from our preview show that shows you exactly what Gareth and the guys thought about MK Dons in the lead up to tonight's game.
I think on this one there's going to be a lot of Reds who are a bit like, I don't know too much about MK Dons. We're among them, it's fair to say. I've done a bit of research this morning to have a look. So they're obviously in League One. And to put that into context, I think the easiest way to do it, certainly if you're local to Liverpool, is that it's the same league as Tranmere. And they've only won 3 points more than Tranmere this season. So would you expect Liverpool to beat Tranmere no matter who they put out? I would say, yeah, you would. So therefore, you'd expect to beat MK Dons also. But just to give you a little potted history or recent history on how they're doing in the league, they got beat 1-0 by Southend at the weekend. Before that, they were beaten 1-0 by Ipswich, both of those games at home. They won 3-0 away to Blackpool. As Paul mentioned, they unfortunately won against Wimbledon, which is grim. They beat Stevenage 3-0 in the leasing.com trophy, Southern Group G. And Accrington Stanley beat them 2-1, Uruday and all that. I mean, on that, I do wonder if John Coleman makes a little cheeky call to Jurgen Klopp, because he's a big red John, and he goes when he's not managing Accrington. And, you know, obviously Liverpool will have some video footage and stuff like that, like they do about any opponent, but I just think it'd be worth him having a little chat with John, you know what I mean, and just say, because he's used to facing them, he knows more about them than Jurgen does, and I don't know, and I mean, it might be hard to get John off the phone, because he likes to talk, he's a lovely fella, but, you know, little things like that happen in football,
It must be weird, must they, when they're talking as well, because the difference in quality and what John Coleman's telling his lads to do and what Klopp's telling his lads to do, it was like, it's just like a different world when you're talking about it like that, but I think it's nice. I think it's nice that we're playing at that level. It's nice to get a draw like that as well, isn't it, for a change? Because we haven't had a draw like that for a while. Yeah, and hopefully you get to give a few lads a go as well. I think that'd be nice.
Thanks to Gareth and the boys there. Now, to see the full version of that preview show, as well as all of our other fantastic video content, you know what you have to do. Go to our website and subscribe to video content. If you just prefer the audio content, you can do that too.
Or you can have both, Mo.
You can have both now.
Some sort of bargain price, can't remember offhand. About a tenner, it's a snip.
It's like twice what it used to be for what we used to say, £5 a month. Now everything is £10 a month.
It's fantastic.
Everything.
It's fantastic.
I know, right?
Lots more of us.
Lots more of us. Now, okay, we've done enough now. Now, we mentioned at the top of the show also Jurgen Klopp. He's done a new interview with the Players Tribune. I'm sure that some of you have read it by now. I love it. I mean, I love pretty much everything this man says, but this interview in particular really caught me. And we talk about the Players Tribune and about how sometimes it does feel like everybody's got a story.
Hey, Mo, what's the Players Tribune about?
It's basically an area for athletes themselves to tell stories. But in this particular context, the one thing I do like about them is that more often than not, you can tell it's someone who's speaking for themselves, from themselves. Yeah. Like sometimes you'll see an athlete will have a column in a newspaper or somewhere in the media, and it will feel like an interview. It'll feel like a professional interview where they have certain things that they know they have to talk about. This genuinely felt like he was just sitting on the plane on the way home writing it.
Yeah, he did.
And you could hear it you could hear his voice as it's being read. And I mean, the story opens with the whole Rocky IV thing. We know how much of an 80s child he is. He mentions Rocky, he mentions Back to the Future, right up your alley.
He doesn't just mention Rocky, he mentions how he's seen all. How many were there? 4 or 5 or 6 of them. And he goes, it almost Partridge-esque way, it's number 4, which is a genuine classic.
Oh yeah.
I enjoyed that. He writes, it's a genuine classic. Those are his words.
This is someone who's had to argue for Rocky against people quite sometimes. Like, the other ones are rubbish, but 4 is a classic. But the point of the story is that he was there telling all of these young kids about Rocky and giving them all of this tub-thumping imagery about how he overcome the odds, and none of them had even heard of Rocky. As someone who's in their late 30s and has to regularly try to entertain teenagers at the weekend, I totally understand where he's coming from with that story. But my favourite part of it was the fact that he only remembered the bad bit. He didn't remember what he then said to them. He didn't even remember if they won the game. But the lesson he took was from the mistake. And you can see that again and again and again in his coaching career, particularly at Liverpool. I mean, I think there's only been that one period in January 2016 where we lost consecutive games, and we haven't done it since then. That's got to be worth something.
Yeah, Klopp's not afraid of his own vulnerability. I mean, that piece is pure humility and vulnerability. You go, look what an arsehole I am. You know, and yeah, I can still pick myself up. I mean, it was hugely illuminating. You know, I know we're in the middle of the biggest love-in with the Liverpool manager in living memory, but it's hard not to keep loving Jurgen at the moment. I just hope when things get tough, as they eventually must do again, that we remember these times and we stay focused and loyal, as Klopp is. I think he's trying to say in his piece. I've been shit, I've had bad times, but we come through them. I know this is all obvious stuff, but it is the nature of sport.
Yeah, I think he was almost kind of giving a little bit of a trailer to that potential future in the piece as well, where he talked about 98% of football is trying to get over failure and still see the joy in it all. And that's something that we see again in him over and over again. He talks about how he's always smiling in games. I mean, we know he's not always smiling. We have seen him when he's looked a little bit more upset during a game. But he has enough genuine life experience to realise how important this is within the context of everyone's world. And that helps to grow that whole sense of enjoyment that you see throughout the squad. I really believe that.
Yeah, it does. I mean, yeah, it's a squad very much built in his own image, isn't it? And he's a great guy. I don't know what more you can say. Yay, Jurgen, yay forever.
Well,
don't ever leave us, please.
Well, see, this is the thing. Maybe it's not going to be forever. Maybe it doesn't have to be forever.
Enjoy him while we still have him.
Enjoy him while we still have him. That's definitely the
I
advice.
look forward to
of him.
Pep Lijnders. In that piece, did I read somewhere that the other day Klopp effectively said, "Oh, my successor, if he had to be one today, would be Gerrard."
He did.
That was a bit mad. That.
Yeah, and
It's gone under the radar a little bit.
And Dan Austin wrote about that on his Liverpool.com piece that came out yesterday about how he's really scared about the idea of Gerrard being manager. And it's a really interesting thing.
Hell of an endorsement, I mean, Dan. But I know what you mean.
Hey, mate. No, but yeah, it would appear that it does seem those two, between Pep and Stevie, seem to be the front runners. But let's not talk about Klopp
talk about that.
after him. Let's talk about him now and how much we enjoy having him here. And how we're really excited to see this Liverpool team, in whatever form it takes, play again this evening. I know I am.
Oh, I'm hugely looking forward to tonight. I'm looking forward to Ryan Brewster most of all. We've hardly touched on this, but I'm really looking forward to seeing him play.
Hopefully he's going to get a few goals and we're going to really start to see the start of his Liverpool career. But that's Talking Reds for today. Short but sweet. We'll be back tomorrow with a breakdown of exactly what happened in that game. Up then.